Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of our interview with menswear stylist Gareth Scourfield. If you guys haven't watched part 1, then go back and give it a watch. It gives a really nice introduction into his career, how we got started, and some advice for up-and-coming stylists. In part 2 of this interview, we find out who has given him the best career advice so far. We take audience questions, we find out what life after COVID-19 looks like for the fashion world, and who he would like to break the ice with if he could. Speaking of advice, what's one piece of advice that someone in your career has given you that has made a difference to how you've gone about things?
Well, I would say, in fact, I categorically know that it was Paul Smith that gave me this advice, the designer. So Paul Smith. And it was probably around, he got knighted in around 2000, I think it was, about 20 odd years ago. But what Paul used to do periodically, normally just before Christmas, he'd invite editors into his office, and he's got an office in central London where the showroom and all his kind of teamwork. And it's the most amazing, eclectic office. It's sort of, if Willy Wonka was a kind of fashion designer, Paul Smith would be him. I mean,
cool.
The books go up to the rafters. He gets sent so much stuff from around the world from all his kind of fans. The most incredible stuff. Art pieces, little sculptures, drawings, collages. It really is like, it's just an assault on your mind and eyes when you go in there. Anyway, so this particular time we'd gone in there and he was showing us his new coat of arms. Then went on to say that, you know, his company motto, or even a life motto for himself, but something that he sort of integrated into the kind of company ethos, was never assume. And it was just those two words: never assume anything in life. So don't take anything for granted. Don't leave anything to chance.
Yeah.
It just stuck with me that time, and it's something I've carried on, and I've passed on to my assistants, and something I always double check in with myself. So whilst everything on paper might look great, there's shoot set up, or the fitting set up, or you've got outfits being flown in from New York or whatever, and you know, never take that for granted. So I'm checking the tracking, I'm checking what they've sent, I'm opening the box immediately, you know, because in the past I haven't always done it. You know, I've left a box in the corner and I've opened it an hour before a shoot.
Yeah.
And what's inside is not what I was expecting. And just so it's little things like that. And I think all that's done for me is that you just become a little bit more armed and prepared. So you feel like you can go into any situation knowing that you've covered yourself as much as you physically can.
So we have a couple of audience questions. We actually got quite a few messages in our Instagram DMs, which was great, of people just wanting to ask. So I got a question from a Jane Wilson. She says that she's seen a lot of your work over the last 18 months, especially with Taron Egerton and Richard Madden, of course. So her question is, how much input do your clients have when choosing their outfits for special events or shoots? And is it a collaborative process, or once you know their style, do they rely on you completely to source something for them? So I know you've kind of touched base on it already, but if there's anything else you'd like to add, just so Jane can have her question answered.
Well, it's, I mean, in answering Jane's question, yes, it always is 100% collaborative. I don't present a rail of clothes with my preconceived ideas of what Richard Madden or Taron Egerton should be wearing, because I think that is just a non-starter, or at least 50% of the rail gets dismissed. So I think it has to start with a conversation, and sometimes that's over the phone, sometimes it's meeting face to face over a coffee. In fact, Richard's probably my oldest client, so I've got to know Richard very well over the last decade, I suppose. So we've sort of finely tuned his style. So, but there's always questions, and there's always preparation, and there's always, you know, a collaborative spirit, I suppose. Recently, in fact, I did meet Ian McKellen. I did him fairly recently. But Michael Sheen is a new client, and he was filming in New York, and I was here, and we had to speak over the phone. And he was in the middle of rehearsals or hair and makeup. So we kept calling each other back. Anyway, we had the conversation basically. And then you start creating a mood board based on that, obviously, initial conversation. You pull up brands and ideas and styles and silhouettes, and start just putting it all down on paper, and let them have a look at it, and they'll cross stuff off, or they'll tick things, or they'll like, let's try this, or they come with their own ideas. And then really it's about trying stuff on, and everything's photographed and documented, and trying to capitalize, I can never say that word.
Capitalize.
Yeah, on basically a well-edited wardrobe for the client.
We've got another question from Lauren. Lauren says, what are your views on sustainable fashion?
Well, I would say it's not going to go away, and it's here, and it's about how we work together. So from my side of the industry, the Stylist taking on board those brands that have really got sustainability at the forefront of what they're doing. It's not the easiest and cheapest way of producing clothes, but by definition, I think we all need to slow down and not be consuming as much anyway. It's going to be part of the conversation, I think. I think it's whether that's about a client re-wearing things that, you know, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix made a very, big point during the awards ceremony recently, and he just wore the same black tuxedo suit. I think he wore a Stella McCartney suit, and he's like, that's going to do me for the BAFTAs, for the Oscars, for the Golden Globes. And also I found that, you know, clients are much more informed. You know, they really do want to know where it's been made, what kind of fabrics are being used. Is this a brand that's, you know, looking towards sustainability? Do they have a range within their collection that is more eco-friendly, that is using organic cottons, that isn't wasteful? And so yeah, I've been more mindful in bringing certain brands to clients that do have that very much at the forefront of what they're proposing. We
got an overwhelming amount of questions about your relationship with Taron Egerton and Richard Madden. So everyone wants to know how these relationships, I guess, initially came about. And then want to know about Cannes Film Festival last year, 2019, the build up to the Rocketman premiere and all the different outfits that you had to style for press interviews and the premieres and this and that. And there was so much going on. So can you just tell us all about that?
Well, generally, and it happened with, actually it didn't happen with Taron, but it did happen with Richard, and it often happens with the clients I have. I first get to meet them on a photo shoot. Okay. And that's what happened with Richard way back. I cannot even remember when, but I was doing a group of actors, young actors, for a portfolio for Esquire magazine, and Richard was one of those actors. And I guess it's just one of those things you hit it off. And then I think I'd seen him at a couple of events, and then got introduced because he was a friend of my editors at the time, my editor at the time. And it's sort of it's a conversation, and then, you know, they sort of say, well, I need a stylist, I've got this big film coming up, or I'm looking for someone that can help me.
Help.
You know, yeah, I'm a jeans and t-shirt sort of guy. I've got nothing else in my wardrobe. Where do I start? Where do I begin? So as I said, Richard's probably my oldest client, and that's how that started. And actually with Taron, it was interesting because obviously I'd been working with Richard, and Richard was also in Rocketman. And I think I can't remember how it came about. I think Richard and I were having a drink, and Taron's publicist had got in contact and asked if I was up for meeting Taron and getting involved on that side of it. So but at the time I thought it had been Richard that had mentioned Taron on set, and he said, nope, I haven't said a word. So it was quite interesting how that came.
That's quite cool.
That came about. If you can communicate well with each other, understand each other, really on just a very basic personal level, that's the kind of magic, really. That's what you're looking for.
You must have had a ball, though. I mean, coming up with the outfits for Cannes and the Rocketman premiere and all of that.
It didn't dawn on me for a while that actually this is the first time I've ever had two actors in the same film. And because it was such a big deal, it was a big film. I just thought, well, I'm going to have to be in 2 different places at the same time. It was probably one of the longest press sort of junkets and films I've worked on, because you start with the long lead titles for those photo shoots, and that was back in January last year, right up till sort of the launch in Cannes in May, and then London and New York, and it goes on. And
it's a big one. Yeah.
And then obviously it sort of picked up towards the end of the year as well, when the award season sort of kicked in, and it was brilliant. And they were brilliant to work with. Obviously,
with the current situation that we're in, COVID-19 has rocked the world completely. So what does it look like for the fashion industry after COVID-19?
That is the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I think if I knew that, I'd be making a lot of money right now. I think it's a massive reset button for the industry. I think, the first conversation to be had was, how are these brands and designers ultimately going to survive in the initial aftermath of when we start coming out of lockdown? But longer term, how they show the product. Hopefully the industry will open up a lot more. It's notoriously quite secretive. It can be quite elitist. And I think that needs to be broken down more. I think we need to be much more open with each other, and much more transparent about how we work and do business. And I think the whole industry really needs to slow down. I think we need to just buy better and buy less of what we've got.
Buy better and buy less.
And I think we've got to really be considerate. And I've certainly noticed in lockdown, yes, I've been online, I've bought a couple of things, but I've really, I've gone through my wardrobe, I've really edited stuff out.
I think lots of people have just thought, right, this is it. Let me just get rid of stuff.
A real clear out moment. And it's been quite cathartic and quite therapeutic.
It has been,
and then you sort of realise, well, I don't need much more than this in my life, and I can buy a couple of things a season to refresh things or update stuff. But I think, the days of that must-have shirt or the print of the season is gone. I just don't think it has much relevance now. I think brands have to be much more emotive in what they're trying to say. It's all about the storytelling, I think, and that's what brands need to go back to telling, is to tell a real human story about what they're doing and designing and producing, and because people need to connect to that rather than this sort of ostentatious sort of the it bag or the coat that everyone must be wearing, or whatever it is. It just doesn't seem to sit right post panic now. I think there needs to be a lot more attention to the messaging.
Yeah, definitely. If you could break the ice, meaning have a drink with anyone, past or present, who would it be and why?
I had to think long and hard about this. There's lots of people I'd like to have a drink with. But then it suddenly occurred to me, the one person that I have had total admiration for, and have watched films and his music and stuff, but never got to work with him or shoot him or whatever, is David Bowie. He'd be the one person I would love to sit and have a drink with. I've never met him, so I've only seen documentaries and interviews. There was a shoot. I was at GQ when we did do a shoot with David Bowie, and I didn't go on it. I wasn't on it.
Oh no!
The pictures were amazing. He was fantastic, and I do know that Paul Smith and David Bowie they had a great sort of relationship with each other. His image is so ever present, and I think it's such a reference for so many designers and brands when they're referencing a moment in time or a silhouette or how they put an outfit together. I think David Bowie's never very far away from a mood board or, having that sort of inspiration. That's who I'd like to break the ice with, David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie. That's a great one. No one's ever said David Bowie yet, so it's a great one. Well, I think that's a really positive note to end this chat on. I mean, I feel like I could talk to you for hours though, because I just really enjoyed this. So thank you so much for your time and everything.
You're welcome. Well, thanks for asking me. All right, well, great to speak to you.
You too, Gareth. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a beautiful weekend.
Yeah, and you. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more inspirational videos just like this, then don't forget to subscribe, which you can do by clicking right over here. Also, leave us a comment in the section below and tell us who you guys would like us to break the ice with next.